up, guys? Welcome back to Simply Minis. We're back here today, finally. It's been a while, but we made it back here over to Jason's to get this bore kit installed. Brad over at BVR was nice enough to send us one, so we're gonna slap that thing on and let's check it out. All right, so parts-wise, here we have the bore kit from BVR. Thank you again to Brad.
Part number?
So obviously we've got our cylinder here. Just want to point out that 2013 to 2018, you're going to get this plug. You're going to run it right here. It's an EFI port for the newer models. Obviously if you're carbureted, you won't need that. So it's just a little plug for you. But yeah, here's our cylinder. It's actually still stamped 109 instead of 132.
Ooh,
so,
you dirty boy, BVR.
So you could be sneaky. And you know, we've got our piston, new wrist pin, clips, rings, gaskets. Then we've got some extra parts that I bought that I'll also be installing along the way. Just got a fresh gasket kit, magnetic drain bolt, HD clutch spring. We've got the timing chain guide upgraded from CJR. We've got the Vail Motorsports oil pump gear. Let's get rid of the plastic one that likes to shred apart. Got a Takagawa timing chain. Got the DHM cam retainers, cam spring retainers. Those are an upgrade. Then we have our solid cam chain tensioner, and then just a couple tools that we'll use along the way. So our flywheel puller and our clutch nut removal tool. And I've also got a fresh, brand new service manual with a cover done by my buddy Philly Cheddar Page.
Philly Cheddar.
He's a tattoo artist, but I hit him up to make me a cool cover for my brand new owner's manual.
And he hand draws all that. So
yeah, he hand drew this on an iPad, but he hand drew it. So that's pretty cool. That's special for me. And then yeah,
just your service manual.
Brand new service manual that I'm sure we'll be referencing because we're more KLX guys than anything, but it's got everything that we should need in here. All right, we're gonna get digging into this thing. We're gonna pull the plastics off and get down to business. Gonna move forward with pulling the air box. All right, got the air box off. Now we're gonna work on the throttle body. We're gonna try to avoid taking all this apart and removing it. We're hoping to just pull these steel bolts out and kind of move it up out of the way enough. Alright, so we got the throttle body off. So moving on to the exhaust. Alright, so here we got the cover for the sensor here. I'm gonna pull that off. Now the sensor that's in here, 2000 pre-EFI model, so all your carbureted models, this is that sensor that you won't have. we're going to use that bolt in the cylinder. So you just got 2 8mm holding this cover on. Got our sensor there. I guess for now we'll just unplug it. That will have to come out and get transferred to the new cylinder. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and pull the valve cover off. Okay, so forgot to do this earlier. Keep in mind that I also already drained the oil before we started.
Hopefully.
Most of it at least. So this bolt here, nicknamed the second drain bolt that a lot of people pull by mistake when changing their oil. This is the timing chain tensioner bolt. There's a bolt in here and a spring that's coming out right now. Now this will relieve the tension on the timing chain when you go to pull it off. So you can just take the spring out, put the bolt back in so you don't have dripping oil everywhere. Just make sure you put the spring back in when you're done. Just snap it up. And we move on. Alright, before we take the top end off, we're going to set this thing to top dead center. Don't necessarily have to, but I guess it's just good practice. And considering this is my first time digging into one of these things, I might as well learn today. There's a O-ring here. There's the
Timing mark in there.
Yeah, so you got a crank bolt here. That's what we're going to use to turn the crank, and eventually we're going to find our timing mark in there. Yep, so there's 2 marks on your crank here. You can truly see them there. It's kind of hard. So there's a T, and then a line, and then there's an F with a line. You want to line up your T line. One is for timing, one is for firing. So you want to line your T up, and then up at the cam.
With that mark right there.
Yeah, there's a mark inside this bolt hole here. So when you're lined up there, your cam up on the top will be lined up.
So you have a mark here and a mark down here, and those line up with the flat of this head right here. So this all lines up like this.
Yep. Alright, we're going to pull the cam gear. They're off. Zipper out. So we have these 4 here, and there's 2 down here inside the head there. And 2. Get this thing up here. Look at that. Set right off. There's our cylinder head. Put that off to the side. There's our gasket. Get this. It's 10mm bolt on the side of the cylinder here. This holds in kind of just like an idler roller for the timing chain. And now we should be able to Put this thing off. Might take some convincing. Oh, just enough. Alright. Okay, so especially if you're taking this thing apart for the first time, which I'm assuming most people probably will if you're watching this video, it might take a little bit of convincing to get the gasket to pop loose on the base here. Just get something in there, pry it gently. This is aluminum, so you don't want to mar it too much. But it didn't take too much to pop it loose. And slide it out. Make sure you catch your little idler roller here. And here's our OEM cylinder. This thing probably has 20 hours on it. I haven't ridden it a whole lot since I got it. Pretty much brand new except for the little firing ring here. That's about it.
There's a clip right in here, and you can use this opening right here to go in there and get that clip out. You'll see what I'm talking about when you get here. It's pretty hard to film getting that clip out because you got to make sure it doesn't shoot across the room. So Johnny's going to go ahead and pull that out.
Alright, so like Jason said, we're going to stick our screwdriver in here. I'm going to kind of keep my thumb over the hole here to keep this snap ring from shooting across the room over into my eye.
Well, yeah,
There we go. So yeah, that's the little snap ring. It sits in a groove inside of there. You only need to take one out. There's one on the other side as well. You only need to take one because now we can go on the other side and push the pin out from this hole here.
Go ahead and push, Daddy. Oh, there it is.
So come out just enough to clear the top of the rod there.
Look at that little dinky rod in there.
Alright, so when you buy these bore kits, they give you this nice instruction sheet here. A couple installation tips. Shows you how to set the timing. What we're looking at here is the piston rings, what order they go in and how they should be oriented. So your black and silver ring will go on the top. The all black ring will go in the middle, and then you have your oil. There's a thin, and then there's like a wavy ring that will go on your bottom. Both of these rings, they'll have letters that will face up, and then your corrugated ring, the wavy one, the ends you want to butt them up together rather than overlap them. That's really the main points with those. Alright, so real quick, we're going to check our ring gaps. So what you'll do is you'll take your piston rings, get one on the cylinder at a time, take your piston, square it up. So Honda, they recommend 8 thousandths gap for your top ring, 10 thousandths gap for your bottom ring. So right now we have
Those are minimums.
these are minimums. So they could be open just a little bit more. You don't want to have too much gap in there. But so we have an 8 thousandths. Let's check our first ring gap here. Slides right in. Okay. Alright, pull that out. Get our second ring in there. And square it up with the piston. Grab your 10 thousandths gauge. And check your gap. Slides right in. So we are right on the money, good to go. Alright, we're back, getting ready to go back together. First thing, before we forget, always put your base gasket up on. Nothing worse than getting the top end back together and realizing that you forgot it. Now we're going to toss the piston back in. Make sure where it says in, that's for your intake valve, which will always face up on these engines. So you want to make sure, get that thing on there, facing up, sit it on here. I'm gonna get the wrist pin ready. Put a little dab of assembly lube on. This stuff is sticky. I'll goober it up just like that.
We use Ultra Slick from Permatex for engine assembly lube. Good engine assembly lube right here.
Yeah, honestly, if you really wanted to, for this, you could just use regular engine oil. But being mechanics, we already have this stuff on hand. Get your pin started. Get it lined up, push it in. You want to make sure it's all the way in, because there's another groove in there to get your other snap ring in. So now we're going to fight this thing to get it in. Now what I try to do is I try to get it started by hand. Get one end in the groove there. One end in there, kind of get your thumb on it, and press, and hope that it slips in. Alright, we are in. And you see I use the screwdriver to help coax it in there. You just want to make sure that you don't scratch the outside of the piston here. Down here is okay. It's really not going to contact anything. You just don't want to scratch inside this bore or on the outside of the piston here. But we got this thing down in there. Now we can go ahead and slide that cylinder back on. Alright, another thing to check for before you slide your cylinder on, make sure you have both of these dowel pins in here. If you don't, things won't be properly aligned, which you don't want. So, on with the cylinder. And as I put this cylinder in, or on, I'm going to be lining up my piston rings, kind of getting them in there one by one. So your ring end gaps, you don't want them in line with your wrist pin, and you don't want them in line with your valves. So I always put mine kind of up on the diagonal here. So I'll put one up here, I'll put the other one down opposite. That way we won't be leaking compression. This is the part where you kind of need about 4 hands.
Yeah, you just compress those rings as good as you can with your thumbs. You kind of get one edge in, and then you work the other edge around. I usually put the top edge in and then try and work the bottom, or vice versa, whatever's really easier for you to reach. But make sure you pull your chain through when you're putting your cylinder on.
Yeah, let's get your chain through. Make sure you got your gasket, dowel pins, all that fun stuff. All your ring gaps aligned. Slide them in the cylinder. Okay, so we got our cylinder back on. I tossed in this roller for the cam chain here. I have my sensor out of my original cylinder. Just remember, for the older carburetor bikes, you have that plug that BBR sends you. You will use that in place of the sensor. But I'm just gonna thread it in by hand for now, just so I know it's in there. We'll tighten that down later. I'll leave it unplugged so I don't forget. All right, so just like the base gasket, you do not want to forget your head gasket. Doesn't look like this has a particular orientation, so we will toss her on in. Feed the chain through there. Looks like we're all lined up. And just like with the base, I'm gonna make sure you have your dowel pins in there. And again, feed your cam chain through. While you slide this on, move this stuff up out of the way. Wiggle her on, and you are good to go. Alright, we will get our washers back on our studs here. Four nuts.
These nuts. Got him! Got him!
Okay, so these 4 nuts, they will go to 10 foot-pounds, or on our torque wrench we have inch-pounds, so it's 120 inch-pounds. You'll want to go in a crisscross pattern. Make sure you get some torque on all of them before you go to the full 120, just to kind of get it all seated properly. Alright, so start up here. Now we're going to 120.
£120 inch-pounds.
Yes,
I want to specify that.
Yes,
That's
again,
120 inch-pounds
yes.
on a 1/4 inch torque wrench.
Yes.
On a 3/8 torque wrench, it's going to be 10 foot-pounds.
yes.
You try to torque these to 120 foot-pounds, it's going to snap the stuff off.
You're gonna have a bad time.
You're going to have a bad day. Those Simply Minis guys, they lied to me.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
It's so satisfying. Alright, so we got those.
The 2 little ones.
These ones just go by feel. You don't want to go crazy. They're just a couple of little bolts here.
Call that a 2-finger tighten.
Yeah. Nothing crazy there. It didn't take a lot. It didn't take a lot to take them out, so I'm not going to use a lot to put them back in. But at this point, we've got everything back together. We can throw our cam gear back in. Now, your stock cam gear, it's got this little tang on it. It's going to line up with this groove in the cam.
Can't frig it up.
You really can't mess it up. If you do, you should probably just sell your bike and not touch another engine. That went on very easily.
And you remember, there's the line here, so we have this at top dead center already, and when we set it earlier. Double checked it when we were done before everything went back together, so you're going to want to double check that. And then just make sure that your line here, you have a line on this side of the cam gear, and a line on this side of the cam gear, and that's got to line up with the flat of the head here.
Yeah.
So all straight up and down here.
Yeah, and after we get everything tightened up again, we're going to rotate the engine by hand, make sure that we're all good. You always want to double check this stuff before you fire up your engine for the first time.
Remember to put your cam tensioner spring back in there. Johnny's just pulling it out. That's that spring we were talking about. Almost losing the rod.
Now this does have an orientation. This bigger end sits on top of the bolt here. The smaller end goes up into the engine. Alright, so before I do forget, like I said before, we're going to snug this guy up. Don't go crazy tight, just snug.
It's only brass.
It's only brass, little copper washer in there. Plug your sensor back in, good to go. Okay, so now we got our tensioner spring back in. I'm going to turn this thing over by hand, just do a full rotation. Make sure not hitting anything. Noise you hear is just the starter chain. Okay, so with these CRF110s, they recommend putting a little dab of oil in this, or well, not oil, sealant in this corner and this corner of the new valve cover gaskets.
You won't see no KLX110s needing no sealing on the valve cover gaskets. What is this?
It's got a little dabber there.
Gotta seal up that China goodness.
Get another Geber right here. Okay, here we go. Toss her on in there.
Oh yeah.
Now, just like with the other cylinder and the head, you have one of your locating pins that's up here. This little ring in the gasket will go around that, and it'll sit flat on the head here. I'll stick my finger in here, wipe up any extra gasket maker. This. Now we should be all good to put the valve cover on. And make sure the ridge in the gasket fits inside the cover. Just make sure you're not pinching it.
Should have polished that bad boy.
I should have. It's just after 1 in the morning while we're doing this, so I'm just trying to get everything back together at this point, if I'm being honest. Like I said, I'm just checking the gasket. Make sure I have it seated nicely in the valve cover here. Looks like we're good to go. Put our 2 weird looking bolts back in the top. These are just going to go good and snug. Not going to go crazy on them. These are 10 millimeters. Make sure. these, you just, like I said, just don't go crazy on them, but you'll feel when they bottom out. Just get them just a little snug after that. And that's the top end. We're gonna continue putting our throttle body back on, exhaust, air box, all that good stuff. Then I'll be ready to put some oil in this thing and fire it up.
Thanks for joining us again on Simply Minis. We hope this helps you out. We know the CRF110s are really popular at the moment, so we wanted to try and get some more CRF110 content done. We're not going to show you the air box and putting all the rest of this stuff back on. We kind of showed you taking it off, and it's just redundant watching it go back on. So if you could do a bore kit, you could toss all that back on. Alright, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and we'll catch you at the next one.